Hi guys, and welcome to today's video on pie charts and divided bar graphs and in brackets extending, which I think means that you will have done it before and we're just going to go a little bit further. It is really good to see you. If you are looking at knowing how to draw pie charts and read pie charts, draw divided bar graphs and read divided bar graphs, you're in the right place. But I can tell you now, it's not easy to say that quickly. Give it a go. Now I'm Darren, really good to see you, otherwise known as MaffsGuru, and I'm here recording all of these videos actually for you guys. Now if you could do me a favour, would you click the red arrow that is over there at this moment in time and asking you to subscribe? It would be greatly appreciated and it makes me feel like people are actually watching these videos. Now normally I talk about what we're doing in this lesson, but I pretty much just did it there. And as a recap, we're building on the work we've done before. Now, we've been dealing with data representation and interpretation over here in Australia. And if you're not here in Australia, really don't worry about it. It's fine. The work is universal. Maths is a language. But we've previously looked at dot plots and column graphs and line graphs and stem and leaf plots. And trust me, it was so exciting. We watched the videos twice. Well, maybe not. The problem is, while they're great, the one that we tend to use most in maths is the pie chart. Now, I don't know, randomly, as we say here, Barry's been at it again. He's calling this a sector graph. Don't know why. And in fact, you're not even listening. You're looking at that chocolate cake, aren't you? And I'm looking at that chocolate cake too. Don't tell anyone. I had half a Toblerone a minute ago. Love it. Little bit sugar high. Life is good. Don't you? Now, why, oh why did we call it the pie chart? Why, oh why did we not just call it the cake chart? Because we know that cakes get cut up into slices. I don't know that I've had a pie. If I eat a party pie here in Australia, do I cut it into nice little slices? No. It doesn't make any sense. Could you imagine slicing a party pie? Little bitty, no. Big meat pie, do we slice that? Probably, if we got family. Otherwise, if it's me, I'll just eat it all on my own. Thank you very much. But basically, a pie chart is like a cake that's just cut into slices. All we ever need to know, maths, is how many slices to cut our cake into and how many slices each person's going to eat. That's literally it. Every time you do a pie chart, think cake. So I'm going to start with the basics here. And effectively, pie charts are used to represent numerical data. Each slice of a pie chart stands for a number of people. Now, if we look at this one here, it's a full-on circle. And if I was to say that a full circle dealt with 100 people, we'd be fine. That whole circle basically stands for 100 people. And if I don't slice it up into any slices, or if I don't cut it up into any slices, then that whole cake stands for 100 people. But what if I was now to cut it into two equal pieces, and the key word here is equal. Changing my pen color, I'm going to slice it smack bang down the middle. Now again, remember, this pie chart still as a whole stands for 100 people. But I suppose the question now is, what does each part of that pie chart stand for? How many people are in each of that? Well, we cut it into halves. So that would suggest that 50 people were in that section and 50 people were in that section. Not again difficult, is it? And you guys are going, but we already know this. I'm sure you do. But in a moment, we're going to start dealing with circles, with angles, and all sorts of stuff. And I need you to make sure you understand what I'm talking about. All right, I now want to have 4 pieces. And I'm going to say 4 equal pieces. Well, what am I going to do? I'm going to cut this down the middle and cut it again. All of you know how to cut a cake. I'm sure you've all had birthdays and all had to cut birthday cakes. Be careful with knives. Again, same thing. This whole the whole thing stands for 100 people. So hopefully you know there's 25 people here, 25 people here, 25 people here, and 25 people here. Now some of you will be going, how did you do that? Well, I had 100 people and I'm going to divide it into 4 equal slices. And 100 divided by 4 is in fact 25. And we could keep going on. What about 10 pieces? Well, there is 2, there is 4, there is, I don't know what that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now the first thing you're going to be shouting at the screen there is, hold on a moment, mate, they're not equal. And I know it's actually really hard to do this by line of sight. But assuming they were all exactly the same size and I had 10 pieces, then there's 100 people divided into 10 pieces, which means that each piece would stand for 10 people. So 10, 20, oh no, don't write 20, what am I doing? 10 there, and 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 10 there, und 10 there, und 10 there, and ja, hab. And there are my 100 people. There's just 10 people in each little section. Now, the trick to knowing how to do pie charts, as I say here, is firstly to know how many people there are and how many slices you're cutting your pie chart into. Now, I'll come back to that again in a moment, because pie charts are awesome, but sometimes we don't give you the information that you need. So let's look at this one here. Looking at that pie chart, we have sport, TV, internet, and homework. So a number of students, let's say 100 students, were asked what they do at home as a pastime, what their favorite pastime is. And a pastime is just like a hobby or something that they do. So what did we get? So obviously the 4 different responses were sport, they were TV, they were homework, and they were internet. Now, can we work out how many people were in each of those slices? Well, we know there's 100 people in total, but are each of those slices equal in size? Sadly not, no. So in this situation, I can't. I could do if I used my protractor, and I asked all of you who currently have me as a lesson to bring your protractor, and you'll learn how to use that in a moment. But looking at this straight away, I can't work out how many people are in each slice. I could guess. I could say, for example, that looks roughly a third big. That seems to be a third of my pie chart, and a third of 100 is 33. So I could sort of guess, but I wouldn't know accurately. But could I describe the data? If I asked you which was the most popular pastime, could you answer that question? Well, of course you could. You could turn around and go, sport! Nutters, who does sport? Joke, joke, joke. What was the least popular? And all of you would go internet, which we all know they couldn't possibly be asking anyone nowadays below the age of 15, because you're all addicted to your phones and Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and all that. All bad. All bad. One day you'll forget how to talk to people and you'll never get married. True, true, true. You'll all be sitting on either sides of rooms going, I don't know how to talk to them, so I'm not going to. We'll all be very lonely. There'll be no children, no school. Too much information. So sometimes we like to be able to describe our data in a different way, and pie charts are definitely one of them. But then we get to this thing called the divided bar graph. Well, why is it called a divided bar graph? Well, what do you notice there? It is a bar. And do you notice it is divided into different sections? And basically that's pretty much it. It's like a pie chart. It's like a pie chart, but just in a bar. Random, huh? So how do we read this thing? Well, once again, what do we notice? We've got sport, TV, homework, internet. Same 4 categories we have below. We have a key that basically tells what each of the colors means. And keys are really important. Remember, when we did the lesson on on stem and leaf diagrams, we decided probably the most important thing for a stem and leaf diagram is in fact the key. What other thing do you see on this divided bar chart? Yep, percentages. Now percentages, again, really, really important, and you'll notice it goes from 0 to 100%. We can't have more than 100%, it doesn't make any sense. And then what we can see is we notice that sport goes from, so if we look at sport, it starts at 0% and goes to what? So we say roughly 38%? Well, there we go. So we now know that 38% of people do sport. And a lot of people get very confused now with TV, because I say to them, well, what percentage of people did TV? And they go, oh, I know, it's 63. No, it isn't. It can't be 63, because TV starts here. So TV starts at 38% and it ends at about, let's say, 62%. And so what we're actually looking for now is the difference between 62 and 38, which hopefully is 24. Yes, so 24% of people like TV. Likewise with homework, we're looking at the percentage where homework starts and the percentage where homework finishes, and that will give us the percentage of the people who like homework. So these divided bar graphs are awesome. So long as we set them up with the key and the titles and the percentages and the colors, it's all very, very good. We're getting, strangely enough, towards the end of this lesson, but I suppose you guys, the most important thing to know is how do you draw a pie chart? Now, for those of you who have me, I asked you very much to bring to your lesson today the protractor. Now, I imagine many of you go, oh, I've forgotten, I don't know where it is, I can't find it. Probably one of the most important pieces of maths equipment, other than a calculator, is the protractor. And sadly, many of you lose it before you even really need it. So my advice is keep it somewhere safe. It's useful to have. I know we don't use it all the time, but it's useful to have. And what we have is a way of measuring angles around the edges. Now you'll notice here that that value there starts at 0 and then counts up, going around to 90, 100, 110, and it finishes at 180. So that's moving it around that way. Sometimes we want to move around it on the opposite direction. And then in that situation, we'd use the 0 here and the numbers on the inside. Okay, so that was a quick crash course on using a protractor. But I suppose before we go even further, we need to know this. To be able to use a protractor and divide circles into angles, which is going to become really, really important, I need to know how many degrees there are in a circle. And hopefully all of you, because you've done geometric reasoning, will know that there's 360 degrees in a circle. So if I start here and work all the way around and come all the way back here, I will in fact have covered 360 degrees. A random number to choose. Wouldn't it be better if it was 100 degrees? Yep, but it isn't, it's 360. So how do I use that information and degrees and stuff if I wanted to split my circle up now? I almost said triangle there, but no, that was a mistake. Well, again, like we did before, if we know the total and we know the number of slices we want, then we can work it out. So for this one here, we want 4 equal slices, and we know there's 360 degrees in that circle that I want split into 4 equal pieces, which in fact gives me 90 degrees. And so using my protractor, I do a mark at 0, a mark at 90, a mark at 180, a mark at 270, and then I would join those together. Now obviously I've just gone through my calculation, but that's not a problem. What about if I wanted it into 5 equal slices? Well, 360 divided by 5. Well, 5s into 3 don't go. 5s into 36 go. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. 7, remainder, how many? 7, 35, 1. And 5s into 10 go 2. So that means we'd want 72 degrees for each section. So I'd put my mark here, and I'd measure off 72 degrees, and I'd measure off 72 degrees, and I'd measure off 72 degrees, and again I'd measure off 72 degrees. Knowing this is the center, I'd be able to then split my pie chart into roughly, in this situation, 5 equal places. And once again, what about 10 equal slices? Well, I've got 360 degrees. I want 10 slices, which would give me 36 degrees each. So there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And what we've noticed is I'm really bad at doing this accurately. But again, hopefully, if I did this properly, that would be 36 degrees big, that would be 36 degrees big, and so we go on. Now, some of you will be sitting there going, but I don't know how to use a protractor, I'm just going to give up. Well, sadly, then that's where you start to fail in maths. The second you give up, well, what can I do about it? There's nothing any teacher can do about it if you give up. If you try and ask and try, you will win, you'll survive, you will get through this. And so the best thing to do is to keep going. Now, sadly, as I say, not everything in life is made of equal slices. Sometimes, as we did with that previous diagram, there are different slices. So let's look at an example from the Cambridge Essentials textbook series, and thank you to Cambridge for allowing me to use your examples. On a particular Saturday, Sanjay measures the number of hours he spends on different activities. And what do we have here? Television, internet, sport, and homework. Now, the important thing to notice here is he spends 1 hour on television, 2 hours on internet, 4 hours on sport, and 3 hours on homework. So obviously each of those slices are going to be a different size. But how many hours in total does he spend? Because again, remember, the total number of hours he spends, or the total of all of these slices, is really important to us. And so if I do 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 3, I get that he actually spends in total 10 hours. Okay, so 10 hours, And we know that the circle has 360 degrees. So 360 degrees divided by 10 gives me 36 degrees. Now that means I'm going to split my pie chart into 10 equal sections. Happy with that so far? Awesome. Now, as it just so happens, I have set up a beautiful protractor. Now I know it looks different from yours because yours is only the half circle. In the United Kingdom, we are so lucky because you can buy the full circle that actually goes 0 to 360 degrees. Sadly, mine doesn't go 0 to 360 degrees. It's a little bit weird. So what I've done here is I've said, well, I need to go around in every 36 degrees. So first things first, there is a mark at 0. Here is a mark at 36. I'm going to do another mark at 72. I'm going to do a mark at 108, which is roughly speaking here, 144. And 180, and then likewise going the other way around using this rather random protractor. There is 36, there is 72, there is 108, and what else did I want? 144, and then my last one there. Now hopefully this will allow me to move the protractor away. Let's move it over here, away from my picture to allow me now to see what I want to do. So there's the center, and I'm now going to say very, very lightly. And the reason I'm saying very, very lightly is because we're not actually going to use, this is just a guide. So still drawing these in as little dotted lines. Now the reason I'm drawing them dotted is because I don't really have any other option. I don't have a pencil. Hopefully all of you will use a pencil to do that. Now why is this important to me? Well, now I'm going to go back to my original question and I'm going to start using the information. So again, that's going to become a little bit small. Let's move it up because I've actually got the question coming up slightly lower. So remember, Sanjay does 1 hour of television. So one slice of this now is going to be television. So this is where I go and color in, and I'm going to do TV. Notice your pencil lines, which are very, very faint, allow me now to draw the right number. What about the internet? 2 hours. So 2 slices of this is now going to be the internet. So there we go, draw a thick line there, and I'm going to write internet. Now because your pencil line is really, really faint, you're not going to see it. It's just there. Sport is 4 hours, so I want 4 sections of this for sport. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is my 4 sections, and I'm going to write sport here. And then finally, homework should have 3 sections, and it does. And there, in fact, is homework. Now, it would be good if we could then go through this and color it in. And I'm going to obviously do a boy color in by shading using different lines and whatever else. But you guys have colors, so why not use the actual colors? And I've now represented all of that information for Sanjay in a pie chart. So the trick is 360 degrees divided by how many total hours there are. Split that circle up using your protractor and then using very faint lines, and then color them in bold when you know how many slices relate to each individual item. Okay, so coming to an end almost, we have the divided bar graph. We love divided by graphs. Why? Because it's exactly the same as the pie chart, but it's just a bar. So let's get rid of this. Once again, all right, we're going to do 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, and 3 hours. So we know we've got 10 hours. So we now need to split my long line here into 10 different sections. Now, obviously, you're going to have the advantage of being able to do this using a ruler, and you'll be able to actually measure how long it is and split it up. So let's see what I can come up with. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not bad, not great, but it'll do. And once again, now that I've got those guidelines, now that I've split it into 10 sections, I can now color in one of them thick and say, there is my television. I can color in 2 of them and say, there is my internet. I can color in 4 of them and say, there is my sport. And that would leave the last 3 as homework. Yay! And we can color them in once again, and anyway, all very exciting. Now, once again, though, we've got to put in our percentages, remember? So this has to be 0, and this has to be 100%. And because I've split my graph up into 10 sections, how many percent is each section? It's 10. So this is 10%, there's 20%, there's 30%, there's 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and there is my 100. Okay, so there we go. That is my divided bar chart. Now, obviously, very last part. Oh no, nearly. I've got one more section to do. Barry's making things hard again. He wants proportions. And some of the questions you're about to do have proportions in them. That's okay, it's not a problem. What is a proportion? It's nothing more than a fraction. So if we look, once again, same example. How many hours has he got television? 1. How many hours has he got internet? 2. How many hours has he got sport? 4. How many hours has he got homework? 3. How many hours in total are there? There are 10 hours in total. So if we're now going to do a proportion, then television is equal to, how many hours does he do in television? 1 out of 10 in total. There's my proportion. What about my internet? How many hours does he spend doing internet? 2 out of 10. And hopefully you are all aware that you can cancel that down because 2 and 10 are both even numbers. What about sport? 4 out of 10, which once again can be cancelled down to 2 on 5. And homework is 3 on 10, which can't be cancelled down. So whenever you see proportion, it's just asking you to say, well, look at each of the individual bits and divide them by the total. Not particularly difficult, Barry. We saw through this one. And the very last part, I promise, before this video gets to almost too long, finding numbers from pie charts. Look at this example here. I have gone out there and surveyed a load of people about their favourite fruit or food. And I got chocolate and fruit and pies and chips. Now, if I know that this whole chart here stands for 40 people, can I work out how many people like chocolate? Well, probably chocolate's the easy one, isn't it? Because we know that half of the people, because that's half of my pie chart, obviously like chocolate. So a half of 40 is 20. So 20 people must like chocolate. What about chips? Well, a quarter of the people like chips. Well, what's a quarter of 40? Well, a quarter of 40 is 10. So 10 people like chips. Now, pies and fruit looks roughly the same, and we'll pretend they are. So what we now say is, whoa, what's that? That would be 1/8 of each person, 1/8 of 40 must like fruit and pies. Now, a lot of people go, well, how on earth do I work out an eighth? Well, I wouldn't. We already know that 10 people here like chips. And these sections here are half of those chips each. So what's half of 10? 5. So we've got 5 fruit and 5 pies. 5, 5, and we said that was 20. Now, obviously, as a check, we need to go back and go, do these all add up to the right numbers? And so 20 and 10 and 5 make 40. A virtual high five. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of my lesson. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to fade to the other side of the screen. Hello, I'm back on the other side of the screen and undoubtedly growing bigger now because this is very much the end of the lesson. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this has helped with pie charts and segmented or divided bar charts and all the stuff that you need to know. Go away and practice. It's the best way to get better with maths. If you can, do me a favour and subscribe. There is a circular doohickey loading over there, and just below it there is a new video loading, which is also Year 8 stuff and may be very, very relevant to you. Thanks very much for watching. Hope the day's been good for you. I look forward to seeing you next time. MaffsGuru, out.